wonderful special guest for you all this evening is Derik Condit. And let me get you his bio here. If I don't lose my voice, we'll be good. Originally from the U.S. state of California, Derik has acquired a wide range of experiences to draw from. He spent 4 years in the U.S. Army, where he was stationed in Mannheim, Germany. After leaving the Army, he then became a commercial deep-sea diver, where he would work subsurface on oil platforms in the Gulf of Mexico. After that, Derik moved on to manage a retail sporting goods stores and work as a contractor for Microsoft, then ended up spending nearly 16 years as a Washington State Correctional Officer, all before pursuing his passion with the bees. Derik has an interest in bees for many years, but due to job changes and frequent moves, it was not possible to start a hive of his own. Derik and his family were able to relocate to the Cascade Mountains of Washington State, where their living situation finally allowed for multiple beehives. Derik, along with his wife Maureen, are Washington State-based chemical-free beekeepers who believe bees can and should be kept both chemical and treatment-free. Experiencing 100% beehive losses from CCD, or colony collapse disorder, his first year of beekeeping, Derik embarked on an extensive online research campaign to find natural ways to help stop the devastating bee losses from occurring. During the winter months of 2016, Derik came across a unique mineral called shungite. Shungite has been used in medical treatment since the early 18th century and has the ability to block certain frequencies. Enough studies had been published by this point that it was apparent that the many frequencies within our environment, cell phones, Wi-Fi, were harming the bee populations and disrupting their navigational systems. While preparing to start new beehives, in the spring of 2017, Derik spoke with friends who were also aware of shungite and its unique healing and frequency blocking qualities. Combining years of online research on natural health and healing remedies, along with his own intuitive abilities, Derik determined that shungite could be beneficial for humans and bees alike. Between his own intuition and those discussions, Derik made the decision to use shungite with his beehives. Initially, 3 small shungite nuggets were placed at one of the beehive's entrances. Then he observed. In the following weeks, he painted his beehives with a mixture of shungite powder blended onto the beehive's paint, providing a blanket of protection around the entire beehive. That's very interesting. As the weeks progressed, all the while proving no other treatment of any kind for pests, disease, or sickness. The bees flourished. By year's end, the beehive had expanded into a total of 4 healthy beehives with no signs of any sickness or disease and none of the dreaded colony collapse disorder that's become so prevalent among beekeepers, which is awesome. The 2018 honeybee season is ending in Washington State with similar results as 2017. No sickness, disease, or losses in any of the shungite beehives. Derik and Maureen's goal is to continue the research and share their experience with beekeepers worldwide in hopes of helping to save our struggling bee populations. In addition, taking advantage of their extensive research and broad knowledge on natural health and healing remedies, Derik and Maureen produce on their premises a broad range of health and beauty products, many using their beehives, honey, and other organic components. These products are sold through their website and other marketing channels, thus helping sustain their beehive operation. This is fantastic. So please welcome Derik Condit to the show this evening. Good evening, Derik.
Hi, Solaris. Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you on board. And what's the best way to access your website? Would it be the Cosmic Reality?
Probably the cosmicreality.net, and then we disseminate information, and you can find the various links from there.
Perfect. Wow. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, so impressive. Your bio is very, very impressive, first of all, and I find it very interesting about the bees, and I kind of want to dive into that level insofar as, it seems like more people should get involved with this because I understand that there have been some issues with bees surviving. So do you want to elaborate a little bit on some of the improvements insofar as what it actually does, what the shungite actually does for the bees?
Oh, sure. So many people are familiar with the disease, or it's actually called a colony collapse disorder, as you had mentioned in the beginning. And that's when the bees leave their hive and just don't return. So there's losses, and you don't necessarily know what the problem is. It's just they don't come back to the hive. And that's a worldwide issue, and it's expanding unfortunately, as cell phones and Wi-Fi is expanding. Mm-hmm. So what we found was through, again, as you mentioned, online research and studies that have been done, not just with us, but through universities and scientists throughout the planet, again, with shungite, and they've shown it has the ability to attenuate or stop harmful frequencies on many levels for humans and in animals as well, and insects. So it actually works on many life forms, on all life forms.
And in this particular thing with the bees, the 5G is being rolled out now, but this is before the 5G. Is that right or no?
Yes, this was before the 5G.
Okay. So what do you think is going to happen with the 5G in your with your own assessment?
Well, what I've kind of figured out there, because I've just done, we get into it a little later if you want, but I've placed it was about a 4,000 mile shungite grid. I drove the whole west coast of the U.S. I'm in a big circle. Oh yeah, and tossed thousands of pieces of shungite out. There's a whole lot more than I'm just saying. It just wasn't a haphazard, random thing. I was intuitively led, and there's a whole story behind this. But I'm kind of getting there because there was a large amount of shungite spread out. And so we were basically laying that grid out there now, and now I'm actually losing track of the actual question what you were asking me.
Oh, that's okay. I was just asking how the 5G would affect, or in theory, what it might do. Yeah.
Yeah, the reason I was doing that and talking about the grid was because on this trip, I had realized, and there were some really short cell towers that would kind of catch my attention. And I was thinking, well, wait a minute, these are really short, meaning below the tree lines. And for cell phone towers to work, it's a distance, it's a line of sight thing. So they need to be above the tree lines for the frequencies to pass to the next tower. Mm-hmm. That's not in 5G, the towers are placed a whole lot closer together, and they don't necessarily need to be above the tree line because they're only going to the next tower, which is usually there's an opening there. So anyway, I was doing this trip of mine, the shungite grid lane, and I started noticing through Idaho, Nevada, Arizona. I went down through California. I went through many, many states doing this. And this was just this last month before I went and saw Richard. And I saw the antennas, and I was thinking, well, wait a minute, something's off here, because these were new antennas and they were laying. So what I'm getting at here is I'm pretty darn sure there's already 5G deployed, at least on the West Coast. And I know it is up here in certain cities in the Seattle area. So initially we thought it would have no effect on 5G. I actually believe it will help. But really, before I even mention that, we need to stop 5G, because that's absolutely terrible. And so the first goal would be to do that. But then, in intern sort of thing is the shungite. And what we have found, and this is relatively new information, it does help with people. So the energy sensitive people out there, and I'm one of these that can sense and often see frequencies, and we work with them. So it does help those people. And so we're kind of figuring it out as we go, because they're not really announcing where 5G is often. It's kind of being turned on, and then they're saying, well, by the way, you've had it this long now. So it's kind of a learning stage.
Yeah, I remember because Boulder was one of the test areas for the smart grids, smart towns. And this was years and years and years ago. But it does. I mean, anytime you're hijacking transmissions, or you're sending some type of a transmission to the public, there's always that chance for contamination so far as the way the signal goes. But yeah, I'm glad that you're working with the shungite. And I have to ask how you got involved with cosmic reality. I know we kind of covered that a little bit in your bio, but I want to go into a deeper level of how you actually got involved with the shungite. And also, the shungite you get is connected. You actually get it from Russia, which is a more pure design versus someplace here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually get it from the source in Karelia, Russia. It's a think province or county called Shunga, hence the name shungite. So if you get it from there, it's actually called shungite. Then there's different grades among the mine there. But it all has the C60 molecule, which is the actual magic in shungite. It looks like a little soccer ball. So that's what kind of, does the magic there. And then as far as getting together with Cosmic Reality and Nancy Hopkins, all that started, let me start. So my first, as mentioned in the bio, my first year of beekeeping, we had complete losses, which is typical, especially in our area, of all hives, of be it mites have taken them out, or colony collapse disorder, or various other diseases, because there's a lot that can really affect the bees. So we had complete losses. So over the winter, before prepping for the next spring, before throwing the towel in and thinking, wow, if you're going to have these losses, and as I did the research, I found it was worldwide. Beekeepers everywhere. It was just a normal, accepted thing that they had to replace their hives. And I'm thinking, whoa, no, that's terrible. Because what they do hundreds of years ago, when you didn't have this, huge commercial bee setup where you can go and get a nook, think a baby hive to restart every year. What would they do then? Well, the thing isn't to keep replacing your hives. It's to stop what's killing them, the chemicals. So then I started doing the research and realized, well, I'm a non-GMO organic person. Actually, I'm a vegetarian as well. So I kind of go to those, not extremes, but to those levels. So I thought, well, it's the non-chemical thing for me has worked fantastic. So I thought, it only makes sense to bring it into the bees. So then I would look and realize you don't need to shove newspaper in the smokers for the bees. You could, and in my case, I could climb the mountains nearby, get the mushrooms, dry them out, put them in there and use that, and just go to those levels. Mm-hmm. So by the spring, I had, just before spring came, and I'm also, as most everyone is, I believe, and intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to listen to my messages quite often and ask for guidance, and I get it. Pretty loud, we'll say sometimes. So I was told or mentioned and led to shungite. We'll just kind of put it that way. So, and when I started researching shungite, and I had no idea what it was initially,
Mm-hmm.
I got on the internet, looked it up, and I was like, okay, what's this about? What am I even looking at here? And then kind of went through the steps that normal people do, figuring out what it was. Oh, it's a mineral, and realizing the healing. And again, I'm being intuitively led this whole time,
Mm-hmm.
not with just shungite, but with the bees, because I knew I should have them both. And I was like, okay, I'm not sure what to do here. And then almost like a movie, I'd say it was the next day. So it was about a 2-day time span. I have a mutual friend of Nancy, and Nancy's with Cosmic Reality, who I'm with now as well, that had reached out and heard that Nancy had put the call out for a beekeeper to see if they were willing to work with shungite. And I didn't know anything about this. It was the day before. I was told, you got to get shungite with the bees. And I'm like, okay. So did the research, and all of this unfolded the next day. And Nancy didn't know anything about it. I never said anything. In fact, at this point, 3 years ago, I didn't even talk about the intuitive level of what I do. So I wasn't even talking about that because I was still a correctional officer in the prison system. So it's not something you really advertise and talk about. So I kind of kept that to myself and did it. And then again, we're about 2-day time span. I got on the phone with Nancy within probably a day, because I was aware of how important this was and what was coming to fruition here. So on that phone call, again, just at the very end of that evening, I had already had shungite. So I had ordered some shungite from I don't even know, another source, and had some at my house, tested it, and I can tell you how I did that later on, because there's a way to test to see if it's real.
Mm-hmm.
And actually walked out and just set it on the entrance of the beehives. So if people go to shungitebeehives.com, that's where we give free information to beekeepers on how to do this themselves and replicate what we've done. But I'm mentioning that because right on the front page there's a video, and if you click play, you're actually seeing the very first time shungite was ever introduced to bees anywhere, because I just happened to have my cell phone, and I said, you better record this.
Mm-hmm.
Another intuitive thing. So that, okay, not sure why, what's the big deal? Well, that's that video. So what you're going to see, and it's about excuse me, about a 2-minute clip
Mm-hmm.
that I loop there, and you'll see the bees all drawn. So there's 90+% of them just drawn to those 3 small shungite nuggets, about the tip of your fingers, about the size of them. And they all go over there. And as you can imagine, I didn't trick the bees into walking over there. I didn't convince them. I didn't say, hey, pose for this video over on the shungite. All I did was follow intuition and the prompting and set the shungite there. And immediately, like it was almost animation, the bees all went straight to the shungite, started walking over it. And then I just sat there. I was pretty amazed. I was thinking, okay, well, these bees should do what typical bees do when a object, a leaf, a branch, or something else blocks their entrance. They should remove it. And that's what bees do. Yeah, they'll actually, bees can actually remove a mouse. So I'm not talking about they can just remove, they'll team up and move big objects if a mouse gets in there, and they'll remove it from the hive. So my point is, these nuggets were not an issue for these bees to shove off of there. What they ended up actually doing was propolising them. So it's a propolis, there's different ways of saying it, but it's a bee glue, and it's actually a really medicinal substance they make. So they glued the shungite down and never let it leave after that time.
Wow.
And that's what and that's what we observed from the very get-go.
Mm-hmm. Did it change their behavior? Did you notice a difference, or did they eat it at all, or try to eat it?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I had no idea about the behavior, and what it does and has done from that point on is calm them down. So this last year, to show this, I actually bought some chemically treated, highly aggressive starter beehives. Again, they're called Nooks, N-U-C. So for anyone listening that wants to maybe look that up online, it's called a Nook, and it's a half a beehive you kind of start with, and then you expand into larger hives with those, hopefully. So I got a few of those from some heavily treated, chemically treated beekeepers in California, and brought them up here and showed this last year all on video. And I've posted all this on the Shungite Beehives forum, where you can see. And so I open up the Nooks. You can get stung, attacked. And I would say, and I actually put down the dates, I don't remember the time, but it was a couple weeks all aggression gone from the bees, no suits needed, no smoke or material. So after a couple of weeks of shungite, the bees completely calm down, all aggression, and then they'll eventually turn into what we call shungite beehives because there's no suits needed, no bee suits, no smoker materials, none of that. You can walk up, open the hive, have tens of thousands of bees come out, and you're not getting stung. And that's still to this day.
Amazing. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
it's common.
phenomenal. That's great.
It's really neat. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something to really log because that changes everything. And do you think that the agitation in general was probably from the technological transmissions that were coming in?
It was both. So during this time, we didn't just take the chemical hives. We would take them, and over the weeks, what you do is you transition out the chemically treated frames. So in a beehive, there'll be frames with honeycomb and honey, multiple ones. So eventually, every week or so, you take one out and put in a new one. So after so many weeks, you have a clean hive, and then there'll be a shungite beehive, and that's when the aggression it would disappear really rapidly, even before all the frames were gone. The shungite just gave them a calming state. And then on top of that, we didn't learn until later about the paint, where all of a sudden I would take the shungite powder, mix it into the paint the outside, as we talked about a little bit. And in essence, that's called a Faraday cage. That's what the military, puts electronics in for solar flares, nuclear war, all kinds of things like that for the frequency. So, and then I had read about healing rooms in Russia they've had them there for a couple hundred years now, where they'll tile with shungite tile a room, put a person in it, nothing else, don't even tell you what the tile is, doesn't matter, you don't have to know about shungite, and they're curing Alzheimer's, autism, you're healing hundreds of times faster from surgeries. And again, it's not a placebo. The people don't know what's going on, and I'm not tricking these bees in any which way. Or we can get in later what we've done with dogs and cats and turtles, all kinds of animals. Yeah,
that's fascinating. So, you mentioned the shungite powder. So you you take the powder and you put it in a regular paint. How do you make the paint?
Yeah, then I'll give you the little trick too. So the catch with that is take a small amount of regular shungite powder, which you can get online. Just make sure it's a good source from Karulia or the miners there. So get a good
just go to
shungite powder
Cosmic Reality.
Hey, there's even better. Yep. Because we do verified goods from the mine. So you would take that, and what I figured out is through trial and error with the beehives, and I've painted a room of my house this way recently too. Because I've mentioned I'm a Reiki master as well, so I work with energies. So I wanted to, hey, why not? So it's about a tablespoon of powder mixed into a gallon of paint. Now the paint, let's talk about the beehives first. So you only paint the exterior of a beehive, not the interior. So, and then beehives, you want to go the whole, of course, as least chemicals as you can, because of heat in the sun, heating up the paint, and fumes and vapors come off. Right. Now, inside of your house, you may not necessarily have that issue. So my point is you can use it with any paint, and it's about a tablespoon per gallon. And the trick is you take a small amount, you take your tablespoon of powder, mix it into a small amount of water first so that you break up the clumps. And then you pour that into your paint. So that way, anybody that's writing down notes right now, or maybe wants to do this in a room, though I'll get them past the big hurdle here. And then mix that small, think of a little shot glass, a couple ounces of that water and powder, get all the clumps out, and then dump that into your paint and mix. And you'll avoid streaks or clumps in your paint if you're painting the beehive or your bedroom. But that's the mixture, about a tablespoon per gallon of paint.
Very good. And how does your computer work around that particular? Have you painted around your computer at all in the room, or no?
Yeah. Actually, we've had computers in and out of that room. I have different areas and rooms painted. It has no effect on. So as I would say, it works just fine. But now, if you're sensitive to computers, you'd want to be in a room with or Wi-Fi signals. And we have many customers or people that they'll just get nauseous, dizzy, sick, get bedridden, and that's from the frequencies. So. And then they'll have the shungite around their computer, and it will help with that. It doesn't block a frequency; it attenuates it or changes it.
Right. Yeah. Very good. Well, that's good. That's nice to hear, and I do like the idea of the shungite powder and using it in the paint. I think that's exceptional. That's a really good idea, especially nowadays because people are becoming more and more interfered with the technology. So, and I can go into different levels of that because of where I've been with an interface. But I've been through synthetic telepathy, so that's a technological interface, and it's you're probably familiar with it if you're from the military.
Yes.
But this is something that's becoming more and more popular, especially with entrainment programs in the covert warfare departments. They're really going full speed ahead. I'm sure you're probably familiar with this. So I don't think it's a coincidence that you're working with shungite right now. And I do think that this is going to be something we're all going to have to be working on insofar as blocking and negating these transmissions that are literally designed to harm the electromagnetic field of the neural circuitry, at least from my personal experience. So I don't know what your take is.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely does that, works that way. And it's so just non-biocompatible or disharmonious to all life forms. I'm talking about not just 5G, but 4G, but so many of these frequencies from cell phones and Wi-Fi. And as I mentioned, with the spread of colony collapse disorder, well, it's not a coincidence that cell phone towers popped up in the same areas too, however many years ago. And there's whole graphs on this online that shows that because the bees fly by, frequencies and think invisible grids up in the sky, much like fish and birds. And well, if we're disrupting that and just confusing it and sending harmful signals in there, they're not going to make it home. They're going to get lost. And when the bees go, we go.
Right. Well, I know that the birds were having a hard time too. The navigation of the birds, insects. I heard ladybugs were actually having a hard time. We were having issues with ladybugs surviving. So a lot of the insects are being impacted by different transmissions. I would suggest we're probably connected to some of this stuff they're deploying, which is really a shame because, as you know as well as I do, we have the free energy, we have aspects, we have technology that we can change the dynamic insofar as we don't have to make it toxic to life forms. So I'm not sure why they're going this route. It's more about the weaponization, but I wish they wouldn't. I wish that it could have been positive.
Yeah, so they could have gone the other route.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's usually about control with this area, but it's the same thing with entrainment programming, and at the same time, in order for us to evolve in consciousness, we can't be limited by interference patterns that are constantly bombarding us. So I'm really happy that you're working with this. I'm glad you hooked up with Nancy. I think this is an awesome thing that you're doing. So and I know there's Dwight Lilly's a host here at Revolution Radio. I'm going to tell him about this because he has he's a beekeeper too.
Oh, great.
And I'm not sure if he's using anything like that, but I bet you he'd be very interested.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we actually just, I was contacted by someone from the University of Oregon yesterday or the day before. They're actually doing a Shungite beehive study. And they thought it was they're kind of excited. They were surprised they got through to me. I'm like, well, sure, I'll talk to anybody anytime. That's why I'm here. It's my job. I'm here to help. So they're going to get back to me here shortly. And I had no idea they were doing the study, basically replicating what we're doing. And we've got Shungite beekeepers, we'll call them, around the planet, probably a dozen countries now, where they're replicating our results to one degree or another. Sometimes they're going completely chemical free, which we push for. Some are, well, we can't quite do what they're saying, but we're doing Shungite to the level we can. Perfect. At least do that. Do it to the degree you can. So lots of results out there.
Right. What about interference from government with your projects? Any problem with that at all?
No real interference yet. Actually, I was flown out to Washington, D.C. a couple months ago for a little TV spot on it as well. So I was kind of in the heart of it there, well, I can tell you, okay, I guess I'm on the right radio station, so I can let a little more out. Yeah. Sure. So now on the personal level, yes, absolutely. Because I do get interfered with, directed energy things at you, like many people do. So if I'm heading to certain events, sometimes we'll just keep it really simple and just say a big zap in the head sort of thing. And then sometimes it goes on from there. But so I'll get messed with there, but nothing that's going to slow me down or stop what I'm doing. So it's like, if that's the best you've got, then you might as well move on. Yeah. But no, nothing that's really an issue.
Oh, very good. You don't have implants, do you?
Not anymore. I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Because you came from the military. Okay.
Oh,
did you have them prior when you got out of the military, or?
I had them before and during, and I have a unique military. I didn't realize a whole lot when I was in the military in my early 20s. Why? And again, you'd mentioned I was in Mannheim, Germany. So I'll just real vaguely, I would all of a sudden be gifted these really special trips that only I would get to a place called Birch's Gardens, which is the whole Eagle's Nest, Hitler's location kind of thing. And they'd put me in a hotel and, they just really hooked me up. They did that many times through the military. So there was lots of finagling going on with me in there to different levels. Yeah. But after I got out, then I realized a whole lot more. And then let's just say kind of came into my own.
Right.
And then, and then clean stuff up and
very good.
So, So
what was you can't tell about what exactly did you do in the military? I'm just curious. What was your
my
intelligence
MOS?
Or what?
No, actually I was, I was able to choose whatever I wanted, but it was I won't get into all that, but it was a whole time thing for me because I was all gung ho and young. But I just ended up being a tanker. It was, I think it was 19 kilos. So I drove an M1A1 tank and then, Yeah, did that whole
Sounds
thing.
fun.
But yeah, it was a blast. It was, luckily I never went to war, so I never had to do anything bad to that degree. But driving around on the tank ranges and stuff, that was a blast. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the technology can be used. Some of the stuff that I've been interfaced with it can be used on such a positive scale with symbiotic interface with controlling and remotely piloting things, and that's the good side of the technology that's more black. But it's coming out. All this stuff is coming out. But what I've noticed is that now they're using it for brainwave entrainment, and they're trying to control, manipulate people by inserting dialogue, narratives, control programs, and also visuals. So we have to be very, very careful insofar as with the technological input we're getting, because sometimes it's not for our highest evolution, and it's not really benefiting us. I guess it's benefiting some of these corporations right now.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I've learned, let's just say, an armor technique to that, because I had just that happen. I would pull out of it, let's just say, during the movie or during the download. Lots of terms for these things. And when I became aware, and again, into my own sort of thing, I could stop that. But there were times in the early days where I would wake up during it, and I would find myself in certain scenarios and things that I shouldn't really be awake for or remember and do. And again, it's all like movie stuff, but it's 100% legit.
All technology. I got zapped
absolutely.
the other day. Not the other day, but a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling people on the radio just a couple of weeks ago. I was hit with a transmission because I have implants. I have signal anomalies, but they're not as strong as they used to be, but they're pretty strong. But I got hit with something that literally changed what I was seeing insofar as I closed my eyes, and it wasn't like delusion or anything. It was a technological screen. But I started seeing things, and then I put this EMF kind of frequency, kind of a cloth over my eyes. As soon as I did that, it went away.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's what I do.
This is a confirmation, right? Technologically speaking, right?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. Yep. And then you can do it eventually. And everybody can. You can do it all without these tools. Shungite's a great helper or crutch. I don't mean that in a negative way, but it'll get you from, A to B to C. But there's lots of ways of doing it. But yes, that's all definitely real. And it's,
And you make the jewelry. I know that Nancy made some really cool jewelry. She has earrings. You're still doing that too, right?
Yeah, we do the bracelets, the pendants, the earrings. We're going to have out again here pretty soon. Then we make shungite rubber. So think rubber mats, like a mouse pad that you can put behind your back, under your head, under your feet.
I've got to check the website again. It's been a while since I've been over there. So yeah, that sounds good. Oh, behind your back too. Yeah, I'd love something like that. That sounds nice. Yeah, I'm so glad that you're doing this. I really, really am, because most people are I don't know if they're that sensitive to the technology or some of the things that are happening, but I feel like they will be hit to some degree, may not even recognize it. They might think they're going crazy, or maybe it's just something else happening, when in fact I think it's going to be a technological thing. So I'm really glad, and I encourage everybody listening to tune into your go to the website and purchase whatever you feel guided to purchase, because this is significant for sure.
Yeah, people are having all kinds of effects. I mean, it's not just say pain or ringing in the ears sort of thing, but I mean, you get nausea. And because 5G is coming up in these new, it's not commonly known, but on the new Wi-Fi routers in our homes from pick your company, doesn't matter. There's now it's a different 5G. This means 5th generation, but there's now that's what we're talking about in 5G. But now on the Wi-Fi routers, there's a 5 gigahertz. So it's a different thing, but that's a separate signal that's on these Wi-Fi routers that is being sent to, say, your neighbor's house or to a box outside. So my point is, there's different signals on these routers than just the ones you may think there are. And you can turn those off. So if you go in your software and turn them off, but more people are becoming, say, stomach issues or nausea or sleeping disorders. I mean, that's because, every neighbor around you is now blasting Wi-Fi, and some of them even have boosters on there, so they can get to the further part of their house. And so, that's why a lot of these things, and it disrupts your stomach biome, so your bacteria level. So then you might have digestive issues, and you don't even know, hey, it's because you got your cell phone up against your head half the day, or you're right there by your Wi-Fi router on your computer.
Yeah. What about the DNA? What do you think it's doing to the DNA from your perspective?
Okay. Oh, it absolutely. So DNA actually literally speaks on so it actually has little sparks of light. That's literal. They actually have little sparks of light. So it actually speaks that way. And light, of course, is a frequency, as we all are. So when you have the frequencies in there, be it on the visual spectrum to where our eyes can see it, or on the outer limits, infrared or wherever else, microwaves, well, DNA is on those spectrums that we don't physically see with our human eyes, but it's all a disruption. So think shining a flashlight and another flashlight directly at it, it's going to have, and now it could have had a positive effect, but that's not the route they went with the 5G, as we talked about. So it's a unbiocompatible effect. So what it's doing would be, Think winding down your energy body and keeping it not at its peak. So then because if it wasn't, if you didn't have all this disruption, hey, maybe you might accelerate, advance, and enlighten yourself and realize things and kind of go on from there. So it's
very true.
Yeah.
That's definitely dimming the light for sure is what they're trying to do. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's what it is also, that it feels almost like a containment field to some degree. And mine, at this point, I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm recalibrated on a lot of different levels, but a lot of things have been shaken off over the years. That part's good. But I do like this. What do you think is the best type of shungite to use for somebody who's sensitive? Should they be drinking it in their water? Should they be wearing a necklace? What should they be doing with it?
And actually, so both of those, but I'll tell you first. So again, as I mentioned, the C60 molecule, that little soccer ball, is what does the magic. So what that does is now tell you don't need to spend that extra money on the pretty shiny elite or noble, there's different names for it, shungite that has more C60 in it, because you only need one C60 molecule to do the job. So, and there's so many in there that now if somebody's led to elite or noble, perfect, buy it, great, go with what you led to. But as far as having it around you, the regular or standard shungite that we usually do, because there's no point in throwing, say 50 Advil at something when one's going to do the job. It's kind of no sense in that. So we go from that aspect of it. But just, you would want it on your body. So when you're moving around, because there's a field, and unfortunately it's one of those things where we don't have this device we can buy on Amazon and walk around and measure the exact field. And that's going to be a physicist on a university level, and they know it's many feet. So if you have a personal protection device, be it a pendant or bracelet or something like that. But I would get more into the water as well, as drinking it in your water, because the shungite in your water makes what's called either fullerene water or structured water. There's lots of names for it. And often you can make it by spinning a vortex clockwise in your water. But you'd want it in there so that your body recognizes that water as biocompatible. So once you do that and you have the shungite in your water and you drink it, for instance, your bladder, your body's going to see it as biocompatible, so it's going to absorb 90% and maybe 10% will go to your bladder, which you'll pee out later. But if it's the other way and you don't put the shungite, or it's unstructured, or it's gone through metal pipes at 45-degree turns, because that unstructures water, your body sees it as non-biocompatible, diverts 90% to your bladder, and you pee out that part, and now you're getting dehydrated, even if you drink water all day long.
Right.
So it's all about, it's about recognizing, turning that, I don't care if it's coffee, tea, water, or whatever. You want your body to see that as a biocompatible liquid, the water portion of it, before it can recognize it. Otherwise, it's going to say, oh, nope, not biocompatible, unstructured, and it's going to divert it out of your body.
Right.
So you
and
would
also,
want,
go ahead. No, I was going to also say,
go ahead.
Yeah, I know Nancy mentioned in the past when I've interviewed her, this is a while back, but she mentioned that it was also good for animals, that we could put that in the water for the animals. Is that right too?
Oh, yeah, that's great, because we have actually video of where we put shungite in our bee/bird baths, because bees need water too. You don't want to have them, because if the water source is a mile away, there's no sense in having them fly a mile if you can put a bird bath. So we do that, and I'm mentioning that so that people can do the same in their backyard. If they can't have a beehive and help the bees, well, yes, you can. You can put a bird bath, and now those bees that are local to you don't have to travel as far. So anyway, when we did that, and then again, we have the video, you'll see bees standing on little shungite nuggets that are in our bird bath, and then all of a sudden, their mortal enemy, the wasp, will land right next to it and start drinking. No aggression. And wasps eat bees, by the way. And then you're going to see a hummingbird fly up next to it, and then one of our cats. So what it does, and it's all video, and wasn't set up. They're just I'm like, what the heck is going on? And they're doing that so they all get along. And we even have nuggets in our dog's water bowl. She tends to, her name is Bee, of course, Beatrice,
nice.
Being a beekeeper. Yeah, my daughter did that one. But she'll go up and grab the nuggets out of the bowl, and we'll have to replace them, because she'll just be drawn to gnawing. I mean, this is most animals. They just want to be around them, even if it's our turtle to our birds or your fish tank. When they recognize the energy into the water, because it makes it living water, as I was mentioning before. Right. And that's not lost on animals. In fact, it's painfully obvious to them.
Yeah, it seems like we're in dead space an awful lot. And I think that's what we're dealing with here with all this technology. Unfortunately, it's a love-hate relationship, because we love our technology, but not a lot of it's very good for us. So I'm glad that you're doing that once again. And it was good that the shungite is a living design work. So that makes a big difference. And also, if there's chemical toxicity, I would suggest that this would also help kind of detoxify the person or animal, or no?
No. It definitely does. And there's lots of studies. We've republished them in our, we'll just call it the research tab on any of these websites we've talked about. It's on all of them. And we've republished the various scientific studies or universities or doctors. So it's not just us, shungite promoters. It's the actual scientists and doctors. And as I mentioned, Oregon State's doing one now, but they're using it in water. They've used it at Fukushima for the nuclear reactor that blew, of course, in 2011. That still is an issue and shouldn't be ignored. Mm-hmm. So they're taking it over there, and there's a reason for that, because it works. They're even building gloves. Get this. The scientists have incorporated shungite into rubber gloves. So when they're working with these harmful, and we're bringing it to the chemicals that you were mentioning. So when they're working with these chemicals, because shungite affects or attenuates, changes radiation. So now they have shungite protected gloves they're actually wearing, and it goes on from there.
Nice. Have you all done any patents with this? It's just, you have so many good ideas, and I know you're generous with your information, but have you thought about making sure you're protecting your work, or no?
No, I pretty much just put it all out there free, because it is all about helping everybody. So once I figured something out, I threw it out there and said, run with it.
The first people to go after your work is going to be the intelligence community, Defense Department. They did that to me when I was interfacing, and I decoded a lot of the technology. They took it. So anyways, I was just curious if you had, Our
logic was throw it out there, get it public knowledge so everybody learns and they can do it, because it's all about helping all of us. It's not about, one group getting a fat bank account or anything like that. That doesn't help everybody.
True.
So share the information. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And also now, with your connection to Russia, is there any problem with you all? I don't think there was ever a problem with Nancy was getting it. Maybe a little fluke here and there. Do you guys have any problems when you get your merchandise? Is everything okay with the way you communicate with Russia?
What I've had to do is, so I have a contact that I made when I was in Washington, D.C., that is an international importer. So just, of course, by coincidence, I'm throwing up some air quotes there, I happened to meet him and be led to him, and he just happened to have this Russian-speaking friend who we've been working with. So we found a roundabout way from the sources that were giving us, let's just say, a little attitude and fighting us, to where we're getting it regardless straight from the mine now. So we're not really having a problem. Yeah.
I love that.
We're too creative for them. So
yeah, I like that. Synchronicity, it's that when you're writing that right cosmic tide, everything just falls into place. And it happens all the time.
With shungite especially, it really does. And the more we give, so we have things like shungite honey, where there's a small amount of powder in the honey from our organic bees. And so we'll give as much of that as ways we will ever sell at a show. But it all comes back around in energy. It really does.
I forgot about that. So you do sell the honey. And I think you sent me some information on that, didn't you?
Yeah,
okay, so we have to post that in the chat, because I want some of that honey. I'm going to buy some.
Oh, we're going to get you. Oh, no, we'll get you a stock of. We make also shungite. My wife Maureen does these skin balms. So we take the organic beeswax, again, all organic. I'm OCD on that, and add the shungite powder, which then it's great for eczema, psoriasis, but the shungite gets rid of toxins. That's why, and the studies I mentioned, the scientists have given it to chickens, cattle, and rats, and they've up to tripled their lifespans. There's all sorts of different results, and if you read through the studies, but it's all phenomenal results. And we're just, kind of riding off of that on the various products.
That's wonderful. And I suspect, we were talking about bathing. I don't know if we did talk about bathing in shungite, but I am assuming that you can put it in your water for a bath, also to assist in detox, right?
We actually make shungite soap. We make shungite bath bombs too. So think Energy Body bath, where my wife makes these bath bombs with shungite, where they actually kind of explode and bubble in your bath. And so it's actually a whole Energy Body aura bath as well.
Sweet.
Because we use pink Himalayan sea salt soap and no chemicals. Beautiful. Oh, it's phenomenal. Oh, yeah.
Wait a second. So is that on Cosmic Reality? Which one is that? Where's the website?
You know what? I think the soap may be only available at shungitehoney.com right now.
Okay, so that's the one I'm going to put.
That's probably why you didn't see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, where is this?
That one may not have been seen, but the other shungite products are Cosmic. I'll merge them all over there, but you're right. Yeah.
All right. shungitehoney.com.
So that's where the more bath products and
And where's the honey? And the honey's there too.
And actually, that's on cosmicreality.net as well. The honey is.
Okay. I love that.
I think probably the soap is missing from Cosmic Reality, but I'll move that over. We've just been so busy. I just, really,
you're gonna, I was gonna say you must be super busy, and there's such a need for this. There really is.
Oh, there is. It's so great too, especially when it's in the soap form, because it really is thinking a whole. So even if, like in my case, I have a shower out of my shop where I have, and that you don't have to have a bath. So my point is with the pink Himalayan one, think of it as an Epsom salt bath, but in shower form. And and as far as grounding, now when you get into the hole, and that's all I'll do the air quote thing again, 3D level. But now when you're in energy work and doing all that, and you can actually feel and see energies. So what I can see, and I play with auras a lot and things like that, you're actually giving yourself an aura bath as well, an energy body bath, because there's things like attachments and energies that can stick to us. And if somebody focuses on you too much, I can see it like a silver cord coming to you. And so there's lots of names for those things that people give them. But long and short of it is, you can remove those things and give yourself a clean energy body. And shungite's the big kicker in that. So it works really well.
Well, that sounds fabulous. And I was just, I just put your website in the chat room too, the other one. But I think there's a real need for this. I knew there was a long time ago when I was talking to Nancy with it. Yeah, she did mention something about when you go through the airport, you have to be really careful with some of the powder, because I think I don't know if she got stopped one time in the airport because the shungite was I guess it was triggering one of the machines. Do you hear that?
I've done that too. I've actually done a lot of traveling lately, and they'll flag me and yank me aside kind of thing, and I go through the whole drama. Yeah. Okay,
but it's just, it is what it is, because I have used the little patch or whatever it is, the little Band-Aid on my cell phone. I did tell the story that when I first had my cell phone, it used to get super hot. And then I tried that little patch, that S4, I think they used to call it a Band-Aid or something. But I put that on the back of my my phone, and it stopped getting hot immediately.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it'll change the battery life.
It really did. Yeah, totally. I can vouch for that. I can vouch for a lot of the products for sure. So definitely. Yeah, that's wonderful. So when you take the shungite honey, have you noticed the difference with the shungite versus just regular honey? I mean, what does it do that's different?
Oh, yeah. Now, the shungite, because it has those C60 molecules, now our shungite honey we sell in small bottles. So it's not that honey you want to grab the jar and lather up a whole piece of toast and eat it. So think of it more as a medicinal honey or metaphysical honey. So now, because it is raw or organic, meaning we don't pasteurize it, it has the antibacterial, antimicrobial, and antiseptic qualities of a raw honey, which is the best antibiotic on the planet. And I don't think a lot of people don't know that. So in my wife's case, she unfortunately had a neighbor's dog come and take a bite at her hand a few weeks ago, and so bad that she needed huge stitches, but they won't stitch it shut because of bacteria from dog bites. So long story short, you just make sure, again, if you're getting honey locally from somebody, get it not only raw and unpasteurized like I'm talking about, but chemical free. You definitely, because when they chemically treat their beehives, it's getting in that honey. And they may say, oh, it's raw honey and local. Well, that's nothing if it's not chemical free.
Right.
So you put the honey, exactly. Yeah. So you put the honey directly on the wound, and it's going to heal in a couple of days. And then the shungite removes, again, all the toxins. What it interacts with is free radicals. So when you talk to the molecular level, there's an electron exchange there. So it changes things on the molecular level. Yeah. So it's great for injuries and wounds.
And also you said radiation toxicity too. So if somebody has radiation sickness or maybe they're getting high levels of radiation, that would assist.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things I can't say, but I can tell you, I can make comments to what we've been told back because of legality issues and medical claims.
It's okay, I get it.
Yeah, but I can tell you every few days we get stories of people who have terminal, they've had cancer in various ways, this, that, and the other, and they've taken it internally. And all we do, you'll take the small jar and dip your finger in it. So we're talking about 2 or 3 drops. Put that under your tongue. And as many people know, there's actually an energy center under your tongue in the top of your mouth. So that plays into it as well. So you get it on many levels on your energy body. And then the C60 actually will enter your digestive tract and go through there. If we're talking internally, if someone was to do that, or externally. But it does attenuate radiation, which is, again, back to why they make gloves out of it. And they're actually trying to make an artificial form of shungite to put in Fukushima because it does work so well.
A synthetic form of shungite. Do you think that's going to work?
No, and they've already done it. It'll work on one level, but okay. The level you and I are talking are on many levels, which is what's important. Okay, well, it's going to work for them on the 3D level, yes, for the radiation. But now on the other levels, which is where really the magic is of shungite, that's where they're going to have problems because they're messing with the frequency levels and all of that interaction.
I agree. Yeah. And the origins of shungite, we're going to have a break here in a minute, but the origins of shungite are very ancient, right?
They are. It's so right now they're saying it's about over 2 billion years old, and this deposit came in from a meteor.
That is so cool. So maybe that has something to do with the way they want to mine meteors these days, huh?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, maybe.
It's very, very interesting. I wonder if it's a particular meteor or all meteors.
Well, it depends. So shungite, the C60 molecule, needs to be made in the vacuum of space, or there's a vacuum also in the flame of a candle, so a molecule can be made there as well. But so certain circumstances for it to be made. So I would think there'd be different degrees, but then there's C70 and C80 as well. There's different molecules.
Right.
So then you're getting all this. Yeah. This,
I don't know if Nancy trained you or not, but you shungite well. It's very impressive. And how did you meet Dr. Richard Allen Miller? Because that's how I met you, and I think this is wonderful.
Yeah, actually, I think so. I followed radio shows online and just come across him a couple of years ago, and then and I heard something like, wait a minute. So another intuitive thing, I need to listen to him, so I would hear more, and he'd talk about the subjects I was interested in and bring some more insight into it. And then I think I just reached out to him and said, hey, I'm the shungite beehives guy. You ever heard of this, by the way? And that was really all it was. And then It just kind of went from there.
Oh, he's brilliant. I love him. So is he working with the beehives too, or no? He's
not directly as in like hands-on, but we're definitely talking and working with each other on many levels, and we're going to continue to do that. Yeah.
Wow, that's a great contact for you. Yeah, both of you are a compliment to each other. So I'm glad to see that going on. Yeah, I think that it's amazing. I love the work that you're doing. It's positive. It's productive. It's so nice to talk to you about good things on the world when the world is in crisis. The way that sometimes it's just,
exactly.
This is such nice information. I know everybody needs to hear it. So I do want to thank you for everything you do. And once again, if everybody wants to reach out to you and get your merchandise, how do they do that? The best way would be your website, Shungite Honey.
So for the bees or the honey would be shungitehoney.com. And then for shungite personal protection would be the cosmicreality.net.
Excellent. Yeah. Great website. So yeah, I put that in the chat as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, for sure. But yeah, these are fabulous things. What about, you said sleeping, insofar as you can use these particular pieces of shungite, obviously around your bed at night, so you can put them, I don't know if you have materials actually on the bed. Do you have any materials you've come up with yet that actually go on the bed besides that thing you were talking about behind the bed, the head? Or the
Yeah. We actually make little orgone devices that are small. They're like pucks. We call them pucks, but they're small, and you can actually lay them under your mattress, and they're made out of shungite resin, which has powder in it, and a shungite nugget, some gold, and it's all described on the site, but they're little orgonite, sometimes they're called, but I call them orgone devices, and those interact with shungite and the orgone field. So you can actually put those under, say, your cat and dog bed or your bed if you're needing to promote healing. You can put them in and the scientists have used these already. I didn't invent these. This is just my take on them. You can put them in your garden and have your plants grow better. And it's just the orgone field. Anyone can look this up.
Right. Well, I've seen the orgone. Yeah.
There you go. Same thing. Yeah. We just incorporated with shungite, and we have video of the plants tripling in size with the use of it.
Beautiful. Yeah. I like the idea of protecting your bed. I feel like these days, especially, people really need to pay attention to their sleeping environment and do whatever they can to keep the shields as fortified as they can, because that's when we're getting nailed, when we're sleeping. A lot of
the
us,
other part.
Anyway.
Yeah, behind your bed. So look behind your bed. Everybody pull their beds away from the wall. And if there's an outlet there, move your bed. But what we also do is, in our shungite paint, I've actually provided outlet covers where I'll dab the shungite paint with a really dense amount of shungite powder in it on the inside of the outlet cover. So now you can replace your outlet cover or make your own shungite paint, whatever's easiest, but do something and put it there, because there's leakage there. And that's every outlet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the spot I would point at for sleeping, because your head is right there on the wall. There's wires going through that wall, so be cognizant of that.
Oh, this is such good information. It's a good reminder too. I know a lot of these things, and I forget. So it's good that you're reminding me about a lot of things. I need to do an assessment again in my room and check everything out. And we are heading for a break. This has gone by so quickly, everybody. You're listening to Ravenstar Switching Hour. I'm Solaris BlueRaven. My wonderful guest tonight is Derik Condit. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.